Hi, everyone.
Howdy.
So you have
Oh,
two hosts here. Make sure you muted everyone just to get this started, and then we can have everybody join in as needed. So, yes, I am one of your two hosts, Noor Kyle.
and I am the other one of the two hosts, the one that doesn't disappear,
Yeah.
Mushtaq Ali.
I'm barely here, I guess. But as you can see, we are hosting sitting in the same seat together because we are using one computer today. We are outside of our usual environment and making do with potentially unreliable internet, but not so unreliable that we can't be here tonight. So one connection it is. Anyways, thank you for joining us for our usual Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. We have so many cool people here, and we are happy to have you, whether you're here live or on the replay. And to those of you who celebrate, we want to say happy Eid Mubarak. So we get to celebrate that together this evening, I guess, in a sort of weird way.
Yeah.
All right. Any announcements or whatever?
No. Oh, yes. There is the usual thing. Like our videos, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment. And if you leave a comment, you may win.
Here's what I'm going to say. If you would write a comment to cheer us up, cheer us on during this bizarre time we are going through right now, I would really appreciate that. And I would be happy to respond to that with equally encouraging words. So,
And you might win.
yes, you might win a prize.
No, not a prize.
that
You
might
just
be.
might win.
I hope you win. There you go.
One of you is going to win.
Okay. So, other than that, retreat is in 2 weeks. We're very excited about that. We will see several of you in Sweden from May 8th to May 12th, and that is so exciting. And if you can't make it to this one, you know, we are starting to think about what comes next. So you never know, we might end up where you are, or you might end up where we are, and we will see what the future holds. All right. Anyways, what are we talking about this evening?
I have no clue.
So we had this idea, kind of continuing from last week's discussion of hazard, which if you go back and watch, if you haven't already, we discussed the things that have been going on for us lately between, well, first we were told we had to move for reasons having pretty much nothing to do with us.
Absolutely nothing to do with us.
And then shortly after that, literally within just a few days, we got COVID. And by the way, this was with 2 weeks notice that we needed to move. So not the most opportune time to be terribly ill. But thankfully, COVID is not typically today what it was 3 years ago. And we've been lucky to not have it up until now. So we are recovering. My throat still hurts, but that's about it. And here we are. We have moved out and we are hanging out with you all in our current digs. And
we are now itinerant dervishes wandering the earth.
Yeah.
Like Huai Chang Kane.
So one thing we thought about discussing this week, which is kind of, as I said, a continuation of the conversation we started last week, is something we've touched on before, but of course, it always means something a little different when you're living it. And that is this idea of perpetual practice. So what does that mean to you, Mushtaq?
Okay, continuous practice or perpetual practice means to be able to do the work regardless of the situation. Do the work if you're plowing the field. Do the work if you are walking from one town to another. Do the work regardless. And for us, it's probably the most important aspect of the path.
Yeah.
You know, that we do not set aside a particular time to do the work and then go back to our lives.
Mhm.
Our work and our lives are the same.
Yeah. And that feels especially true when things get really crazy, because that's when you're on edge. It means you're being tested to your limits. Can you hold your own even when you're angry or you're sad or you're perhaps a little bit excited? And any of those like high emotions that can arise in periods of great change can be they're not bad or good, but they can be distracting from the work. So how do you hold on to your desire to be awake and actually being awake while riding the waves of those emotions and going through those experiences? And it is not easy, as we can attest, and as many of you can attest as well. I'm sure you've all been through your own struggles. You've all been through similar experiences, or, the same type of intensity, but in your own unique ways that are relevant to you. And it is hard to speak to the intensity of those experiences when you're not in them. So I would say that for us, we always see these moments as periods of kind of like a gut check. Like, are we really practicing empathy when other people are going through hard times? That's part of anyone's practice and ours as well, that when difficult things happen, are we sensitive to what that experience is like for other people and for ourselves as well, for each other? Yeah.
So it boils down to this. Whatever the situation, what can you do? You've just been dropped in the middle of the desert and you have nothing but the clothes on your back. How do you practice in a situation like that? The answer, of course, is what do you have with you? And you have your breath. If you don't have your breath, you don't have to worry about practice. So the first part of continuous practice, of nonstop practice, is to, excuse me, you're going to hear that a lot tonight, unfortunately. To align yourself with your breath work, because no matter what else you're doing, you have to breathe. And you can't stop breathing. It's like one of the rules. You can't stop breathing. So you might as well turn that into your practice. First thing. What else would somebody have besides the breath? Because we have more than just that.
They'd have their attention.
Yes, you have your attention.
Very good, Nancy. Yes.
And I was thinking of sensation.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
you can actually sense how something is impacting in your body. As you say, the gut sense, the way the hairs rise up on your neck, the way your heart constricts, your throat can't speak, your thoughts become muddled if you're really challenged by something, and how you've got to wrestle and grapple with that to keep your stuff wired up.
Yeah, this sensation of tears welling up, any of those things. Yeah. Yep. It says thoughts.
Yes, you have your thoughts. And you have your ability to remember.
I would say you have the ability to pray.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely have been doing that. That's a good thing to do.
Yeah, we do the usual Sufi prayer. Oh, Lord, I hope you're getting a laugh out of this.
Yeah.
So,
Got a,
Oh,
Yeah.
Jonathan.
sorry.
yeah,
I've
tell
got
us.
a story I wanted to tell you about what happened to me a few days ago.
Yeah,
Good.
please.
Yes.
So I was walking in a park doing a work exercise, to try and stay present. And it was a good atmosphere, peaceful and quiet for doing that kind of exercise. Then I saw this guy walking towards me. And I was like, uh-oh, I hope he's not going to disturb me. This is going to disturb my exercise. And he continues to walk towards me. And I'm like, oh no, he wants to talk to me. And it's like, oh no, I'm going to have to engage him. I'm going to have to stop doing this exercise, which was important to me, to engage him. And sure enough, he comes right up to me, starts asking me questions, talking to me. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have to stop doing my exercise. Why can't I maintain presence and engage this person at the same time? And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I figured out he didn't look right, and he didn't sound right as he was talking. I'm like, something's not right about this person. And I discover he was like a liverboard on a boat that was moored off the park. And he starts talking in this sophisticated, intellectual way. And I'm like, oh no, I've really got to apply myself to listen to him, to try and figure out what he's saying. But so I was struggling to stay with the exercise of being present and straining to try and understand him, which was pulling me away from being present. And then I figured out he was not right in the head. It was like, okay, I can relax. I don't have to take him seriously. I can just listen to him, let the words just pass through me, do all the right body languages and postures to be respectful to him, and stay with my exercise. So he was kind of like a hazard that came to interrupt my what I had not planned on, and I managed to incorporate it into my exercise. And that was the story.
Yeah. You might even say he was your exercise.
Yeah.
A lot of layers in that one. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of food for thought in that one.
Thanks, Jonathan. And that's an excellent example of, we kind of think we need to sit in silence and close our eyes, and just
Spiritual.
Yeah, the spiritual.
Spiritual.
Do this stereotypical thing. Yeah.
My comment that, oh, I can relax, I don't have to take him seriously. You know what it really was? I don't have to take myself seriously.
Oh, I'm glad to hear
yes.
you turn that around. Yes. Yeah. Like you didn't have to perform in that moment in a way of,
Right.
yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah. I mean, we've been kind of in a state of not wanting to perform okayness with you guys these past couple weeks. Like we are doing okay. I don't mean to say that in terms of like, oh, we're having meltdowns over here,
No,
but
we're actually doing quite well.
yeah, it's more like I would not want us to pretend in a very like sleek veneer sort of way that, oh, life is good over here. It's all Instagram,
Yeah.
Osama knows what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Life is good. And it's
Mhm.
amusing.
Yes.
And if it's not amusing to us, it's at least amusing to God.
Yeah, but I mean, we do find ways to make each other laugh
Yes.
and give each other comfort and and to make it worth our while to go through this. I mean, it always is, but there are ways in which you can kind of embrace it and make it work for you to go through quote unquote suffering. You know, what is that? Is that conscious suffering? Is that,
Yeah.
I know those terms we use kind of,
Yeah, we use them differently
Yeah.
than the standard
and I always forget exactly.
Gurdjieffian guys.
Yeah.
They talk about intentional suffering
Mhm.
and conscious work or something.
Right. And then we,
Yeah, they don't realize that Gurdjieff reversed those two on purpose so that you would always know the people who just read books.
tricksters.
Yeah.
Stephen,
Do you not find that the practices work like a kind of an anchor when you are all over the place
Yeah.
and actually help deal with situations as well?
I know I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought.
And Stephen, I feel like you've been through, no details needed, but you know, you've been through your own stuff. Did you find that the practices help you?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, most definitely. It's something I fall back on. So, yeah.
Yeah, I heard you speaking from a place of experience there. So thank you.
I wish you all the best with your home travels.
Appreciated. Definitely. Yeah, so I think an important thing is you know, they always talk about chopping wood, carrying water. You do that whether things are up or down, and it's certainly like that for us.
Yeah. Or pack boxes and dust furniture.
Schlep all over the place. Yeah. I mean, but we also find fun things to do. Like, I've really enjoyed, now that we have all the clutter out of the way, I have better access to my plants. So I get to love on them more. And they're thriving even more so than usual as a result.
Yeah.
And cracking jokes and, you know, childlike humor, dark humor, all of it is good with
Whoopee
us.
cushions.
Yeah. What else can we say?
We can say, what does your mind do? I mean, you have this mind, you can think and you can remember with it. And as you know, remembering is a big deal for us Sufi types. The whole idea of remembrance is essential. And so you have a choice. You can talk to yourself in your head about your situation, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, or you can remember. And what do we remember? We remember the divine reality.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to breath. If you've been working with us for any time, you have been given a breath practice that includes the act of remembering. And we apply that because there is no need to let things chatter in your head to no effect. And the important thing with this, as Cherie mentioned, which is using the sensation of breath and being a body that to keep you from dissociating, because it's easy to turn everything off and just, you know,
Yeah.
but you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You have to stay present. And the fact that you exist in a material world is one of the things that helps you stay present.
It looks like Cherie has something to add.
Yes. Tell us, Cherie.
The word is choice. So sometimes when you're in that really horrible situation and you feel like you have no choice because you're being evicted from your home. You have choices, but some of those choices are going to be expensive. You don't like them, but you're going to have to make a choice. And so, as you say, you can't waste time checking out and dithering around. You have to sit with it and go, okay, the choices are, and be real about it and make those choices. Last week, I got all my timing discombobulated because I had some dreadful news about a dear friend. She has to make the choice about palliative care now. And I've been helping her all year. And that day, Thursday, I just felt so awful. And I thought, well, what can I do about that? How can I support her? And so I decided, okay, I'm going over to my mother's house and I'm going to help her out and help her declutter her house, her little granny flat, because she's the most untidy mother in the world, but full of love. she's just a collector. So I had my work cut out for me, and I decided it is easy to get cranky, get negative, get blah, 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 and dump on mum. I'm not going to do that. I thought, I'm going to make a choice to have a great day. I'm going to make a choice that mum's going to have a great experience. We got a whole carload of stuff out and rearranged her stuff. She was so happy. And I was so happy. And I thought, that's what it's all about. Even though I can feel the murkiness inside me, and I was still really just reeling from the news from that friend, because also another friend, he's going home today. He's just gone through a 7-hour cancer removal from a melanoma on his face. And you just think, oh my God, will he die from that? Probably. Did he survive the surgery? Yes, he did. So it's like that reality thing, and talking to some of my friends around it, some of them were really cold. And I thought, whoa, what is that about? Where's the choice of diving into compassion, into your heart, using your breath? Stop holding your breath. That's what I find. When under stress, you're holding your breath, or you're breathing shallow, and you're not, sucking in your vitality and breathing it out and flowing with the situation. It's all a blessing for you to help wake up, because if it's too comfy, growth is minimal. So I always feel like those choices are there. You decide, wake up and have a look and be aware of what those choices are, even if you don't like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. That's a lot going on around you too, Sheree. Wow. Ah.
Yeah, this is definitely Mercury is in the house of shit. This is my theory.
Steve has his hand up.
Yes, Steve.
I didn't put my hand up.
Wow, we got two Steves up.
Oh, is it?
Stephen,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
yeah. We'll hear from you
Hey.
after, but Steve K wants to speak up, and sorry about that. I know we have two Steves present.
What, me confused?
Yeah. All right.
I think an interesting thing that I've learned these last couple of weeks has been that the difference between ownership and stewardship. And for me, because things are transient, I guess in science, that's called the law of entropy, but I have my own views on that, spiritually speaking as well. But because everything is transient, I think the best positioning, both intellectually and heart-wise, is to understand that we're stewards. And at any time something can be given, and at any time things can be taken away as well. That's what, like Job said when he went under trials and tribs. And he said, well, I came into the world naked. I'm going to leave basically with nothing, which is a state of nakedness. And I think that that allows for a lot of flexibility. Big time flexibility where it's like, oh, it's like, I thought it was mine. And it's like, in a relative sense it is, but not ultimately. Just my 2 cents worth, folks.
You're definitely right about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Steve S. I know you wanted to chime in, and I'm happy to have you do that.
No, I think that was just a moment of confusion. Sorry about that.
All good, no worries.
It's okay. We like confusion.
Oh well, there you go.
Did you know that if you are not experiencing confusion, you're not learning anything?
Oh, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
I learn a lot, trust me.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you think about it, the word confusion comes from the Latin. The basic meaning is two things coming together. That which you know meets that which you do not know.
Hmm.
And the fact that you are meeting something that you do not know creates this sense within yourself that we call confusion. If all you ever meet is that which you already know, you never learn a thing.
Hmm.
And so I have been telling my students for years, embrace the confusion.
There you go. More
Yeah.
continual practice.
More continual practice. The more confusing it is, the more opportunity you have to learn.
Yeah.
Some of us have gotten PhDs in confusion.
Hmm. I don't have anything to add at this moment. I'm sure there are things. Oh, Osama has that.
Yes.
Yes, sorry for the camera again. I gotta fix that. I don't know what's going on with the camera.
Oh no. It's
Slap
okay,
it
no.
upside the head.
Yeah, but this reminds me of a quote that I once read. I don't know what book, that says there are only two. Well, yeah, there's two rules on the path: start and continue. And I always when I go through these moments of drought, or it's interesting that you use that metaphor of if you're dropped in the desert, because sometimes it feels like that
Yeah.
Mhm.
for me. I constantly remind myself, start and continue, continue, continue. Go to that breath. Because it's very easy to just lean on the moments of, whether it's meditation or practice, that's physical practice, but to have the breath and the awareness and the remembrance in every moment available to continue to make it really a practice of living, especially when it's in those moments of drought, when it's like, oh man, this is tough. This is really tough stuff.
Mhm.
So I kind of fall or lean on that continuation within the practice, this vigilance.
Yeah, that's actually perfect.
Good quote. We'll hold on
Yeah.
to that. Thank you, Osama.
Yeah, it's I'm an old hippie. And back in the day, there was this fellow by the name of Ken Kesey. He wrote books. Some of them were really good, but he had a bus. And if you know about buses, you know that they have the destination on the front of the bus above the
Yeah.
window. And the destination for this bus was further. And that is the classic mantra of that time. Where are we going? Further. Always. Never stopping. And your story reminded me of that.
I like that.
Yeah. So we've touched on,
We lost someone.
we lost someone. Hopefully it wasn't us. Are we still here? Yes, I think so.
You're here.
It's La Vida.
Ah, correct.
Sad. Maybe she'll come back.
Hopefully she will. We also lost my thought. Where was I? Further. What have we, people mentioned all sorts of important things. You know, attention. I think it was Jonathan who brought up attention.
I think it was
Was
Nancy,
it
actually.
Nancy? Well, I'll blame
You
Jonathan
all make
for it.
excellent
Yeah.
contributions, so you
So-
don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So being present in the body.
Being present in the body. Where do you put your attention is essential to this. You know, most of the time when situations get hard, people tend to put their attention on the hard and not on the moving, not on the going through, not on the going further.
Say more about that. The hard,
The hard,
like the part that sucks.
the part that sucks, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is important to talk about, so I'm going to talk about it. You know, right now, this coincides with like my premenstrual phase. So that makes this all the much harder. Like there's an intensity of emotions. It's kind of like my fuse is a little bit shorter. And I don't flip out and get angry, but it's kind of like a quiet sizzle sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Or you walk up and say, "Good morning," and she bursts into tears.
yeah. So why did I bring this up? What were we talking about?
We were talking about attention
Yeah. So
and having the attention on the hard
yes.
instead of on the further.
So it is harder to have attention off the hard during times when my hormones are just doing their crazy premenstrual thing. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who goes through that. So I just want to invite that in the sense that that's going to happen and you kind of just include it in the overall unfolding of things, unfolding, enfolding, both of them, because that's part of the story. That's part of the challenge. And you just kind of embrace it and say, this is what's going on right now. And I will include it in what I'm making space for and being patient with. Yeah. So Shuri and then Nancy, I see you both unmuted.
Yeah, I used to work on a futures commodities trading floor, and it was all men in my team, on the bond team. And every time I lost my temper, they would mark it on a calendar to find out when I was going to have a period. Yeah, that's very, very inappropriate. But this is back in the 80s and the 90s. And that's what they did on an Elle Macpherson calendar. Of all
What, you
things.
got your period? You know, like
Every time I lost my temper. So I learned, and I think this is, you know, the divine reality giving me that motivation to actually hold myself and to actually know I'm angry because you're an asshole right now, and I'm going to give it to you because you're going to get this done, this done, this done. And I never really yelled unless I really had to, because you can't out yell a guy when you're a girl. I'm only 5'2", but I had presence. So it really reminded me all the time, a period, a menstrual cycle is not a disease.
no. Yeah.
So this is the feelings that you get, and you can get a lot done during those weeks hormonally, amazingly so. And you just
feel like it just cuts the bullshit. That's my experience of it.
Yeah, you just lose a little inhibition.
Yes. Yeah.
And you think, all right, I haven't got enough to tolerate that rubbish, so you give it back. And I learned to give it back with humor too. But yeah, I think for girls, we actually discover power there. And if we have the right mentors that can tell us that and not make us feel unworthy, that it's a problem, that we are unhinged. We are not unhinged.
Exactly.
We are actually something deep and meaningful and human. And I think guys need to know that too.
Yeah, anyone who has a period. I mean, gender aside, we don't want to assume, but anyone who has that experience, I agree with you. They need to know that this is kind of another opportunity for practice. It's a different facet of experience, and we can utilize it as another tool in the toolbox to learn more about ourselves and to bring a different perspective to a similar situation we may see in a different light at other times.
Mm.
Yeah. And yeah, so Steve K says men, according to recent studies, actually do go through a period of sorts as well. It's true. So, I mean, people will have to research that on their own, but I do think that being responsive to what's going on in our bodies and not treating it, as you said, Shuri, like a disease, but rather including it in the whole is so critical and also part of continuous practice. We don't have to put that on hold just because we are feeling a bit more on edge than usual, because it's just another way to apply what we're learning.
I did have a satisfaction. The boys never got it right.
Oh. Excellent. Thanks, Shuri. Nancy.
Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, I was interpreting when Mushtaq was talking about what's hard, and I was thinking that maybe hard could be interpreted as what's intractable about a situation. You know, you can obsess about what you don't think you can change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's absolutely the case.
definitely. Yep. And if you get fixated on that, you're kind of stuck, aren't you?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
doomed. So attention demands that you put it on that which you can work with, that which you can change,
Mm-hmm.
and that the direction in which you're going. This is the second precept, Nazar bar Qadam. Watch your step. Know where you're going. Know when you put your foot in the right direction and the wrong direction. And that requires both attention and intention in the beginning. Set your intention to reach your goal and use your attention to keep you going. And Osama has a comment or question here.
But
A
Nancy,
question.
thank you for pointing that out, because you're right. There are many ways to interpret what is hard, and that's a big piece to it. So, Osama.
Yes, a question. So putting attention on what I can change. So I understand that sometimes I feel that I tend to go through a period or mood, some sort of mood shifting, where I'm kind of like sick and tired of the mood that I'm in or the situation or whatever it is, and I just switch the mood. I don't believe it's the best approach in mood shifting. So can you speak about the difference, if there the difference between putting the attention on what I can change and mood shifting, just to not sometimes feel whatever I'm feeling and like oh, everything's great. Thank God. Alhamdulillah, I have a roof over my head, go through the gratitude and stuff like that. But in reality, sometimes it's the situation is actually shit.
Yeah. What you're talking about is kind of a form of spiritual bypassing.
Yeah, we talked a little
Yeah.
bit about that last week too,
Yeah.
where it's like you're trying to avoid the experience of what's real by, pivoting to what feels good, which may or may not be what's up for you that time.
Right.
Yeah. So the difference between the two.
The difference between the two is the first one doesn't get you anywhere. That's the big difference.
Well, the like bypassing.
Yeah, the bypassing, you don't move through your situation. You just stay there, and it's like the excuse me, that cartoon of the dog sitting in the burning room going, everything's all right.
This is fine.
Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, you don't want to be that guy. Because reality sometimes demands that you admit that it's not fine.
Right.
What we went through in this last couple of weeks was not fine. Completely not fine. And yet it was reality. And if we had sat there and stared at the parts that weren't fine, we'd have been screwed. And if we had gone, oh, it's all fine, we'd still be screwed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it seems that there's a level of, there's this acceptance that comes in to see the reality as it is, as it presents itself. And a what's the word? Real honest in integrity. There's a point of integrity of, okay, I'm not just gonna switch my mood around, but honestly go through it. And even if through the situation there's moments of silliness and happiness and goofing around and stuff like that, really being in tune with that as they show up, even though maybe the situation itself in general might be otherwise. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
I mean, we relate to what you're saying. That's I think silliness and
Silliness
jokes,
is
it
important.
emerges very
Yeah.
organically, as opposed to us trying to force it. Like, when you force it, when you're like, hey, buddy, pulse every minute, it's awkward and uncomfortable. Whereas sometimes it's just like, hey, remember how much that sucked?
Yeah.
And then we crack jokes about it because we can get some distance from it through a really organic and honest sense of lightness about it. I was going to say something. This is not a good vibes only space. I think we all understand that at this point, that is not what we want. That is not what we want in our own lives. And that is not the kind of collective attitude we want to encourage in this space. So that's why we talk about the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why we do the talks that we do, because we want to make it clear that the work as we discuss it in this space is not about letting the good times roll all the time. Did you have more you wanted to share, Osama?
Yes, just a thought that came up as you're expressing that, because I'm trying to remember the moments that, being in the desert, right? I love that metaphor. So what role does faith does hope, does certainty or certitude play in this space?
I'd say
Mm.
big role.
I'm not sure I heard the question. Can you repeat
What
it?
role does faith and hope and certitude
Oh,
play?
yeah. Okay.
That's a big question. That's important.
Yeah. And
Faith, the way we define it, is different than belief. Belief is acting as if something is true without any evidence. It's like, and we deal with belief. But faith is something completely different. To me, it's an innate knowing that everything is moving along as it should. And if you allow yourself to be moved through that, then it'll all work out.
that's a very big picture
Yeah.
sense of faith.
Yeah. But that's what works for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think we both experienced this sort of personal, right? To some degree, this is going to be personal, but I agree with you on that. I tend to be kind of eager to be part of the unfolding, the
Yeah.
understanding that everything kind of flows towards the good. And that's good in, again, the big picture sense, not necessarily like,
Yeah.
wow,
Not personal good, because sometimes the coyote drops the safe on your head.
yeah.
It's the nature of the universe.
Or sometimes the lion eats you.
Yes.
And how does that seem good in the moment that it's happening, obviously, but in the big picture sense, that is what I mean about being part of the whole, and seeing it from that vantage point kind of takes the pressure off of trying to have everything be just the way I desire it to be all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's not about me. I am just part of the big picture.
Very cute part.
Yeah. But whatever role I get to play in that is pretty exciting. I mean, if this thing is so huge, then having my small role to play in it is pretty thrilling, regardless of what happens.
Yeah. So I think that we've covered everything we need to cover on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will tell you, and this is just for you guys who hung in here, next week for our talk, we're going to do our first ever AMA.
Ask me anything.
Ask me anything.
Ask us anything, I guess, since we're going
It's going to be
to do this again.
Yeah. But it doesn't have the same euphony, if we say.
Yeah. So you guys can think about that.
Yeah.
Chew on that.
Put together questions, and you can email us questions beforehand. Anybody who's listening to this who wants to get a question in, and if the question is not obnoxious, we'll do our best to answer it. And we will pick both the best questions and the dumbest questions. And we are not going to tell you which one is which.
Yep, you be the judge. You decide. Yeah, I want to. Osama is amused. So, yeah, I want to touch base with whoever has not had the opportunity to speak yet. Put you all on the spot. I love to do that. Alka, how about you? What are you thinking about? Is she present? Can't see. All right, I will get back to her, but I will bother
We haven't heard from Mustaqim.
Mustaqim. Yeah.
Yeah, hello.
There he is.
I have my black and white camera. I don't know why.
It's funny because your background is in color.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing the practice, even in the good time or in the bad time. And like doing the remembrance, the zikr in the name. When the difficult times comes, or good times, doing the self-remembrance, self-observation, and like report that to the name. That's, I think, sometimes helping. So it release the this kind of, hey, Allah, see this, what happened here. This is this is what I going through at this time, or asking for help, or asking for just asking for any idea, or just be there. So that's sometimes I feel it's, and yeah, sometimes there's come the help from anywhere that you don't expect to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes maybe not, but that's not the goal though. Just to be present there and let the name or the divine reality see through your presence, through your self, whatever experience you go through, because that's unique to you, and that's the divine reality, or the name do whatever it feels wants to do. So that's for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Yeah, I mean, I especially recently, given all the craziness, but all the time anyway, I don't always pray verbally. Sometimes it's more of a feeling, but yeah, from time to time, it is more like a dua where it's like, hey, I really appreciate everything that has come my way, and now I'm really struggling and I need help with this thing. I'm being very paraphrasing about it, but I do think that sometimes there is a serious sense of surrender that comes with prayer.
Yeah,
Whatever.
and also, yeah,
Like,
I agree to you. Also, I forgot. I was with that. I want to ask that. I want to add that doing the practice or the exercise while you are everything's good, or you are in the meditation alone, I see it as a like your practice in a dojo or in the training camp, and then when you are throwing into the world or get all this difficulty with people or whatever, that's the real test, or whatever you have trained in that meditation, or when you do it alone in that training. So that's how I see it too.
what do you think?
Think what? You think?
Yeah. How does that show up for you? Like, communicating with what is.
It can show up any number of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oftentimes it is a conversation, often one way, but it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
No.
I mean, because ultimately it's all kind of a one-way conversation. Trippy to think about.
Yep.
All right.
So-
Thank you, Mr. Keem. Okay, so now, Alka, I'm sorry I had to mute you, but I would love to hear from you now too.
I think when we were talking about things are hard, a thought that has helped me a lot since I've been attending these classes and the sessions. I remember whenever things got hard for me, I had to go in a separate place and, remember and do my practices. And so what I started observing for myself, and I think especially for people, somebody asked about emotions, right? How to handle the mood. So one of the things that with this practice, what helped me was I started observing, and I realized that what I was finding hard was actually a weakness in me when I would confuse my being assertiveness as aggressive, because people would tell me it's aggressive, and I wanted to be and I want to be a nice girl who speaks softly, one of those Indian things. But so it helped me build my confidence, and I allowed my assertiveness to be just assertiveness and didn't let people tell me this is aggressiveness. So it was more empathy for myself instead of empathy for others at that time I needed. So my hard was I was not empathetic towards my own self. I was confusing my assertiveness as aggressiveness.
I mean,
because of my lack of confidence. Yeah. So that helped me a lot to observe that, and I'm okay with it now.
good. That sounds like an important struggle to embrace and see what comes out of it. But the thought I'm having is that, sometimes aggressiveness is what's called for, even if someone else doesn't appreciate that.
Sometimes especially they don't
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So, I mean, I don't, let's, I love that you've been able to discern that sense of no, I'm just expressing my needs and my point of view, and it's not an attack on you. This is just my truth. But at the very same time, again, sometimes aggressiveness is exactly what is called for. So hold that as well.
Yeah. So I understand that, but for me, even just being assertive was very, I was in a very hard place for that, so my mood would always go confused and like I'm in a wrong place, and I was just making it very difficult for my own self. And for me, I think nowadays attending these classes and sessions, it's just helping me a lot. First, to be empathetic towards my own self. Forget about the empathy for others for now. First, breathe, be kind to your own self. So.
Yes. Yay. That makes me happy.
Thanks.
Okay. Yusuf, how about you?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I like it. It's like a continuation from the last one, and noticing where I've been, I don't have much to say, but I guess to share where I'm at is kind of noticed myself go from this apathetic, I don't really care too much what happens. I got really comfortable with that, and I realize it's kind of a form of control, like wanting to, if I just say I don't care at all what happens, it's really just me wanting to have control over others, because then they won't have their reactions can't affect me, which is not really fun. You don't have as much feedback. Another thing I realized was getting, like, I relate to what Alka was saying. I also tend to be a peacemaker, or not want things to just can be fake nice, or not want to very non-confrontational. Where now I'm like, okay, I almost get excited when I get angry. I'm like, okay, wow, I don't get angry enough. And I'm like, I can maybe, that I know that there's gonna be some suck. There's gonna be some stuff that is not gonna be great, but at least, it's like, I know I'm pushing in that direction. And it's also annoying when you're, something I talked to Mushtaq about earlier was like, you're like, oh, I thought I had this part figured out. I thought I already went through this. This isn't supposed to happen again. And
We go through that, right? So that never ends. Sorry.
it's always a good reminder. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think there is this thread for many of us who are quote unquote spiritually oriented in some way to kind of dismiss, disregard, undervalue our own emotional experience, especially if we have kind of more intellectual leanings, or we're attracted to the Zen vibe, so to speak, where it's like, oh, feelings, where I don't have those. But they're there, they're often just like, as I said, simmering, and however much we may imagine we have control over that, until we really address them in their full fury, it's very much a fake it till you barely make it situation, and you're not really learning anything from that. Not you personally necessarily, but those of us, including myself, who have that tendency. So when you mention, oh, I'm angry, where's this gonna go? Interesting. I like that attitude where it's like, ooh, I get to utilize this energy and claim it as my own, instead of just stuffing it in a box or throwing it out with last week's garbage and never looking at it again. It's there for a reason. Maybe that reason is, you know what? I don't need to get upset about this because I know that that's my nafs talking, rather than I don't need to get upset about this because that's not what I do. There's kind of a difference there between actually investigating whether it's kind of a pattern of checking out, or if it's more like, you know what, I am genuinely in a place of peace with this, and I don't need to hold on to it. And I think that's more elusive than we would like to believe. So we can keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, with that said,
I think it's time to disappear.
yeah, but we can go on Brady Bunch mode.
Yeah, you take care of that.
Gallery view.
Yeah.
Oh, Shuri, did you have a thought?
I was just reminded by Mushtaq giving me a bit of advice just recently about a good person. And I was saying that, if I behave well and good and all that sort of thing, then I might just be able to change that person. But he said, no. He said, you won't be able to change anyone, but you just might change yourself. And so with that practice, and you think, okay, I keep going to change myself from being stuck in a certain place. And when Arka was talking about aggression, and my mother called me Butch on Thursday, and I go, Butch? She said, you're so Butch. And I go, no, I'm not Butch, Mum. I'm strong, because I was moving stuff for her. And I thought there was a little humorous thing going on inside of me, thinking, when people call me names, I can change it into something that I'm happy with, and it's just like, yeah, you don't have to accept that, and everything is practice. Yeah, you're strong. You don't have to be aggressive. You're just strong. So yeah, everything about practice, about changing ourselves. Don't worry about anybody else. Just change yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
That reminds me of this time where I drew a boundary around privacy. I had a friend asking me some pretty personal questions. And when I was like, you know what? I don't need to talk about that right now. She's like, you're such a mama bear. And I was like, what? What does that even mean? And I think she just sensed my sense of, you know, being self-possessed and like, no, this is mine. And that felt weird to her because I don't often do that, but mama bear vibes, I guess. So
Great.
strong, yes. Assertive, yes. No good vibes only, just honest vibes. All right, everybody. All right. Let's
So-
wave to each other and wave to everybody on the replay. And yes, remember AMA next week.
Yes, so get your questions ready. You could find out all sorts of strange and unusual things about us if you ask the right questions or the wrong questions.
Sounds devious.
Yes.
All right.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week.